Hello everybody and welcome back to Carried Away Travels. In this week's video, I'm going to be sharing my honest reviews of 5 Airbnbs that I stayed at during my road trip around Puerto Rico. Now, right off the bat, I want to talk real quick about why you might choose an Airbnb over a hotel while you're in Puerto Rico, and there's a number of really good reasons. First of all, and probably the most popular reason, is just the cost. If you choose to stay at an Airbnb versus like a hotel, especially in San Juan, maybe a big name brand hotel on the strip, you're going to save a lot of money at that Airbnb versus most of these big name hotels because you're paying for the location and the convenience, which may be worth the money. But if you are on a budget, it can make a lot more sense to choose an Airbnb. This definitely adds up if you're traveling with a group, but even just traveling as a group of 2, I found a lot of savings in going with Airbnb versus a hotel. And that's definitely not to say that hotels will always be more expensive or not worth it. We did end up staying at 2 hotels during our trip as well, but across the board, the Airbnbs tended to be more affordable across the island. Another great reason, especially if you're going outside of San Juan, is that Airbnbs are often a lot closer to all the best stuff the island has to offer. Once you get outside of San Juan, there are definitely hotels, but there are locations where hotels are kind of scarce. And so depending on what you're planning to do in that area, maybe it's a particular beach or a town you want to visit, whatever it is, an Airbnb in a local neighborhood might be the most convenient option versus a hotel that may be more like 45 minutes away. Number 3, in a lot of cases, Airbnbs are going to have better amenities than the hotels. For example, if you're staying in San Juan, especially Old San Juan, the hotels often do not offer parking. So if you happen to be renting a car for your trip, you might not have a place to put it. Versus staying at an Airbnb, it will probably just be street parking, but you have a better chance of finding it in a more residential neighborhood versus the busy tourist sector or the center of town. They also often come with things like little kitchens because you're renting out a home or a suite, maybe more space to spread out. They might offer beach equipment for you to use and things like that. So they often have really nice little amenities that the owners have thoughtfully put in there for you that you're not going to find with the hotels. One of the top reasons I tend to choose Airbnbs is because they're unique as well. Yes, hotel rooms, you kind of know what you're going to get because they're cookie cutter, but I like unique vibes. I like cozy studios and even boutique style hotels, cute little suites with extra touches, something that makes it stand out from the rest. And so one of the first things I look for when I'm booking is the vibe. Am I going to love walking into that room or that house or that suite? And I found that it's a lot easier to find that with Airbnbs. That is definitely not always the case because there are certainly some hotel chains that are going out of their way to have like those design and vibe elements, but Airbnbs just tend to have that kind of naturally. And the last thing I want to touch on is the fact that in many cases, when you book Airbnbs, you are doing more to help support the local economy, especially in Puerto Rico. There's this whole controversy, this problem that's going on because Puerto Rico depends very heavily on tourism. But what's happened is a lot of mainlanders have come over and they already have money, so they're buying these hotels or it's these big hotel chains coming in. And in a lot of cases, what they're offering is nicer, but that money, when you invest in those properties, goes back to the mainland instead of the local economy. So if you book carefully on Airbnb, you have a better chance of supporting the local economy, giving back to a local homeowner. And there are locally owned hotels as well. That is not to cut out hotels across the board. You can definitely find those, but I found it's a little easier to find the locally owned Airbnbs. So in this post, to the best of my knowledge, all 5 of these Airbnbs are locally owned. I did as much research as I could to verify that before booking because I really did not want to feed into that problem. And if that's something you want to help out as well, I would encourage you to do your research, before you book on Airbnb or a hotel and just help support the local economy. So with all that in mind, in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the 5 Airbnbs that I stayed in across the island, sharing what I liked and what I didn't, and then rating them based off of comfort, amenities, location, convenience, and overall value. Here's how my rating system works. Comfort is going to include bed quality, space, cleanliness, and noise levels. The amenities are going to be things like the kitchen setup, AC, Wi-Fi, little extras. Location is about safety, the neighborhood vibe, and the proximity to attractions. For convenience, we're talking about parking, the check-in process, host communication, things like that. And for value, whether the stay as a whole felt worth the price. One last thing right before we dive in, if this is your first time here, welcome! My name is Carrie and I share helpful travel tips, itineraries, gear recommendations, and more so you can always have the perfect trip. My goal with every video is to help you decide whether a destination, a product, or an experience is the right fit for you so you can maximize your enjoyment and minimize your stress. So if that sounds like the kind of videos you want more of in your feed, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. All right, so the very first place I stayed at in Puerto Rico was a cute suite in a residential neighborhood in San Juan called a Cool Trippers Inn room number 1. This colorful little suite is part of a historic building with these beautiful tiles and a gated courtyard. They actually turned the whole building into like a little community complex, and so there's a community yard and it's got seating areas, and each part of the house is its own little suite, and it just had so many fun little touches. Inside the suite it had a hammock, and then in the community area there was a full kitchen for guests to use, and it was only 4 blocks away from Ocean Park Beach, so it was a great location. What I really loved was the vibrant design throughout, from those colorful tiles to the glasswork right by the bathroom. I really liked the secure gated property. We had codes to get in and out of the gate, and also touchless check-in for our individual room. The location to Old San Juan was great too. It was only like 15 minutes or less away depending on traffic, and they had some really nice little basic amenities, just like little shampoo, conditioner, soap. Nothing fancy, but it was still nice that they included it. On the downsides, while the bed was super cute and it was a nice size, it was really firm. I do not like a firm bed. I know a lot of people do. To me, that is a con. I want a soft bed. We could also hear the guests above us when they came in around midnight. They were obviously rather tipsy and loud, and we could hear almost every word they were saying until they settled down. The only other thing I really didn't like was that the parking was a little bit limited, especially in the afternoon. When we came back later, there was a spot right in front of the house, but so much of the area had cars parked on both sides of the street, and it made me really nervous because it was really tight to get in and out of the neighborhood. My overall rating for this would be 3 stars for comfort, 5 stars for the amenities, 4 stars for the location, 4 stars for convenience, and 4 stars for overall value. I would definitely stay here again because it was just over $100. It was super cute and it felt like a great home base in San Juan. I just wish they would make it a little more comfortable and noise proof. Next, I hopped over to this cozy studio in Fajardo, which was really the perfect home base for exploring things like El Yunque National Forest and the bioluminescent bay. What I really loved was the touchless check-in, so we could get in whenever we wanted. There was plenty of street parking. The design in the room was really cute. Like, I really liked the wall mural. They had folded the blanket into this cute little bow design, and they even like folded the towels kind of artistically in the bathroom. There was also a fully stocked kitchen, so we could have cooked all our meals if we wanted. And then the bathroom was, you could tell it had recently been redone. It had a lot of really thoughtful and modern touches as well. On the downside, the bed was just a double, so it was kind of a tight fit, but it was still comfortable. There were some minor cosmetic issues, like a broken shelf in the bathroom, a couple cracks in the walls, and the neighborhood could look a little bit rough. I think it is kind of just a typical neighborhood, so if you're not used to that style, it felt a little different, but we never felt unsafe in our actual suite, especially with all the locks and everything. My final complaint is that it didn't have actual AC, but this is a very minor complaint because they had like a portable AC unit. You just had to turn it on when you got there, and it took a minute to get going, but it did work very well. That's just like a very minor complaint. So for this one, I would give it 4 stars for comfort, 5 stars for the amenities, 4 stars for location, 4 stars for convenience, and 4 stars for overall value. I would stay here again, especially if I was visiting Fajardo, but this isn't one that I would go out of my way to visit Fajardo to stay in again, if that makes sense. Next up is the Jobos Suite at the Hatillo Beach House. This was my absolute favorite stay of the entire trip. I really wish I could have stayed here longer. This one just really blew me away. The room was spacious, modern, and beautifully decorated. That's really what caught my eye on Airbnb. The design just looks so inviting. But once we got there, we realized that it was actually part of a boutique hotel, and the property had a pool. It had a lot of off-street parking, and it even had free breakfast from the little cafe next door. We got to order it the night before. It was delivered hot and fresh at the time we picked. It was so perfect. In addition to that, just the room itself, I loved the mural, the comfy bed, the really modern bathroom that was big and had an LED mirror. There was extra amenities like a fridge, a safe, a smart TV. They even had like a vanity that you could use as a workspace, but it had an extra mirror so you could do your cosmetics and stuff. The breakfast was delicious. We got to pick our own room code instead of dealing with a key. There was just so much I loved about this property. On the downsides, there was a lot of road noise that came in, and that's something I read in the reviews, so I brought a sound machine and that canceled that out. The other issues were there weren't really a lot of accessible power outlets. I think there was like one we could get to, so that was kind of inconvenient trying to charge my phone at night and use it as an alarm. And the shower didn't get super hot, but that is something I kind of noticed across Puerto Rico, is that a lot of places don't really have hot water. But as someone who loves to, shower in the fires of Mount Doom, that was a downside for me. My overall rating is 4 stars for comfort, 5 stars for amenities, 5 stars for location. Oh, it was just like 4 blocks from the beach, by the way. 5 stars for convenience and 5 stars for value. I would absolutely stay here again. I was literally sad to leave. I would visit again and seek this Airbnb out. My fourth stay was a king bed room in a boutique hotel with a mountain view off of the balcony in Barranquitas. If you are looking for absolutely jaw-dropping views, this is the place to be. I was not prepared for how gorgeous the views were going to be from the balcony. Like, they literally took my breath away. I kept finding excuses to go back onto the balcony because I just wanted to look at them again. So the balcony views were the thing I loved the most. Also, we had a king bed that was so soft and comfy and welcoming. I loved it. The room was spacious. They also had a really nice pool area with like a bar. There was a lot of nice in-room amenities like a microwave and hanging space. A lot of these don't have closets, but some of them have like little standalone hanging racks and stuff. This was one of those. On the downside, the drive to get here was kind of tricky. It is way up in the mountains, and there's some sharp hairpin turns, and it was kind of difficult to get there at night because there weren't a lot of street lights. And also, they didn't provide any bathroom amenities, including soap, so we had to use hand sanitizer during our stay. And the shower design they recently renovated this hotel. The shower looked so cool, but it was so impractical. There was no guard between the shower and the bathroom floor, and so when I took a shower, the entire bathroom flooded, and I had to use one of the towels to mop up the water because they didn't give us a bath mat either, and so that was really annoying. And that is something that would almost make me not want to go back if they didn't fix that. My overall rating is 5 stars for comfort, 3 stars for amenities, 4 stars for the location, 3 stars for convenience, and 4 stars for overall value because it was only like $76 for the entire night with tax. So they didn't have the best amenities, but for that view and that king bed, yeah, definitely worth it. I would just pack my own soap and ask them for an extra towel or a shower mat when I got there. Stay number 5 is Casa Georgetti. which is back in San Juan. Now, this was a cozy basement suite, and it caught my eye because it had this really bright decor throughout that did make it look very bright and welcoming. They did have some windows and they made full use of those, so the suite really didn't feel like it was in a basement. And it also had like a full kitchen, so it seemed like a really nice place for us to spend the night. What I loved was the comfy bed. The shower had great pressure, the kitchen was fully stocked, and they even had coffee supplies, and it was pretty easy to find street parking right outside the building. However, the check-in process was touchless, but it was in one of those kind of lock boxes where you have to put in a code to open up the box to get the key. And we had a really hard time getting the box open. And then there were two keys to get in because there was a security door and the main door that we had to open every time. I also did not like that the apartment was all the way in the back of the building and then downstairs, which kind of makes sense because it's a basement apartment, but I didn't realize how much we had to walk. And the walkway wasn't clear. Like there was a lot of debris kind of in the walkway. So at night, that was kind of dangerous. It was raining a little bit, so the steps were like painted and slippery. I really didn't love that. And then in the actual apartment, like it was cozy, it was cute, but the bathroom, like the shower really needed to be cleaned. Like there were some stains that I didn't really like. And so for this one, I would give it 3 stars for comfort, 5 stars for the amenities. With the full kitchen, they also had lots of like bathroom amenities. The location was 3 stars. It was about 12 minutes away from Old San Juan. The convenience, I'd say 4 stars. And for value, probably like a 3.5. This is probably the one I would not stay at again. It wasn't bad, but for $115 a night, it was at the higher end of what we paid for a stay, and there was just so much that I didn't like. It didn't feel worth it at the end. So those are my 5 honest reviews of the Airbnbs we stayed at in Puerto Rico. Overall, I did not regret staying at any of these, but I had to really think whether I would choose it again. And for those first 4, yeah, I think I would choose to stay there again. Maybe I wouldn't go out of my way to stay at all of them again, but I wouldn't have a problem staying there, except for that last one. And it was still a good stay. It was so comfortable, but I think that's the one where I would probably just shy away and I'd choose something else, especially since there are so many Airbnb options in San Juan. If you have any thoughts, comments, questions, please feel free to drop those down below. I would love to hear what you think of the rating system, particularly to help guide videos like this in the future. If you found this helpful, if there were other things that you wished I'd covered, let me know. And I will take that feedback and use it for my next videos as well. And don't forget that I will be sharing 2 more videos soon about the hotels that I stayed at in Puerto Rico. They were really cool, so you're definitely not going to want to miss those. So if you aren't subscribed yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. And if you want to read a little bit more about these Airbnbs, I do have a full written blog post, as always, on my website at www.cochranewriting.com. Each of these Airbnbs will be listed there. I will also include the links to all of these in the captions below, so you can go ahead and check them out for yourself. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way through. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, save it for future reference, share it with your friends that you want to visit Puerto Rico with, and make sure you stay tuned until the next adventure. And until then, I wish you many happy travels.